Welcome everyone. Welcome to another Dreams video. In today's video, I will be doing something that's kind of different from what I usually do in Dreams. I will be actually attending a community jam, and in case you guys don't know, a community jam is a topic that you choose that is randomly chosen every 2 weeks, and usually I don't attend these community jams, but this one actually sounded in particularly interesting, and it's isometric, where you have to combine 3D and 2D, and I thought this was pretty interesting, so why not give it a shot. So if I have to be completely honest, I had no idea what I was supposed to do, because first of all, I was thinking of moving left and right, and then whenever you press triangle, you move forwards and backwards. The camera turns in and you move relatively forwards and backwards. But I had no idea how that would feel, and I wasn't really comfortable with that idea, so I quickly scrapped it. My next idea was somewhere somewhat similar to the game Contrast, where you're basically a 3D character, but under correct light and stuff you can actually go into a shadow and do basic 2D platforming. And that was an idea I had, but I thought it was too complex and a bit unoriginal, so I also scrapped this. However, my third idea was kind of inspired by those videos that are talking about the fourth dimension, and they visualize and they compared the second dimension and the third dimension, and how objects in second dimension appear out of nowhere. And I was like, hey, why not make that a game where you basically have to make whatever it's shown in the 2D screen using 3D, and that's exactly where I started. So I started making the game by, first of all, making the laser and making the cube. The laser would there were two laser scopes, and they would check the position of the cube and the orientation of the cube. And the cube itself is something you can drag and drop using the imp. Now it took me forever to figure out how the controls are supposed to be. As you can see on the screen right now, I'm trying to because what I tried to do is using the left stick to be able to move the block forwards and backwards, but I decided to go with a different approach later on. So what I decided is that the player will be able to toggle between a 3D camera and a top-down camera by pressing the triangle button. So they press the triangle, it goes top-down, and you're able to move the block forwards and backwards, and then you go back into 3D view and you're able to tweak the position a little bit. Right now what I'm doing is trying to make a solution there to the level somehow visible, and I decided it will be a text displayer at the bottom left of the screen. And as you can see, I have totally no idea what I'm doing right now, and that's not how it's supposed to look. So now I finally figured it out how it's supposed to look, and I want you to take a look at this screenshot. And I'll let you know that this mistake was a big mistake, because instead of adding the two laser scope distances and then subtracting 6.5, I subtracted the laser scopes of each other. Yeah. So then I had to do some math, where basically so we had the size of the cube. Now I needed to divide it by the square root of 2, because that's the diagonal, that's the maximum value we could get from the cube on its own. It's the square root of 2. So I had to divide it by square root of 2 and do a bit of math, do a bit of rewiring, but we finally got there, and this is what it looks like. pretty neat. So I decided to skip over the part where I had issues with decimal places. I basically just decided it to be 0.7, and you have to get precisely 0.7, which might seem like very precise, but it's actually not very precise because of Dream's decimal precision. Anyways, so I added in a sphere because we're not only going to use cubes, we're also going to use spheres as an object. And I'm just here tweaking the actual sphere, and that's what I will be doing basically for the rest of this time lapse. For the most part, I'll just be tweaking where the sphere should go. So I added a tag for the square just to differentiate the square from the sphere and call it a cube. And then I started working on the actual level setting. I decided to go with a Portal 2 style with the laboratory that you're stuck in there because, well, that's kind of where the force field comes in. I made here effects for the force field, and I started to make a button so that whenever you press it, you go to the next level and a new thing is displayed. I think that the button turned out pretty nice, but please let me know. The button went through a few changes, but not that many. I also added some sound effects to the button, tweaked, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, the sphere expands and shrinks depending on the force field. These were the sound effects. And this is, I suppose, devlog 1 of my game. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comment section below.